One of the most common complaints I hear about as a jiu-jitsu coach is about people's cardio. As grapplers, we very quickly learn the importance of endurance. It becomes another thing that we have to work on in addition to everything else we're trying to fit into our daily schedule. Well, I've got some good news and some bad news. The bad news is that you can't have the best cardio without adding an extra targeted supplemental conditioning session. The good news is, for most grapplers, they don't need the best cardio. For most grapplers, good enough is good enough. I don't think it's realistic for most grapplers to try to fit in supplemental conditioning. In fact, I would advise against it. You need to be frugal on how you spend your limited training time. So finding modifications to things that you're currently doing is probably a better option. What I'm going to talk about in this video is 3 easy modifications that you can do to your current training to improve your cardio without adding in extra sessions. 2 quick notes before I get into it. First point I want to stress is that if you're a competitive grappler, you likely need to add in extra conditioning on top of these modifications. Grappling itself won't develop the energy systems needed to fully excel at the sport. Therefore, I would advise competitive grapplers to seek professional assistance on developing a strength and conditioning program targeted for them. The second major point is that you need to be good at jiu-jitsu. Don't stress about having the best possible strength and conditioning if your jiu-jitsu is absolutely garbage. Your fitness will likely improve as you begin to suck less. Don't try to fix a technical problem with a physical solution. The first way that we can improve our fitness is just by simply working at a higher tempo. Marcelo Garcia famously said that he didn't do any strength and conditioning. He just did jiu-jitsu faster. What I've noticed is that most people, myself included, default and drift back to a comfortable pace during their rounds. Varying this tempo, specifically increasing it, can help you build your stamina. You can also change the round length to help with this. Shorter rounds will let you send it more, knowing that the break is coming sooner, and longer rounds will help you be a little bit more deliberate and slow down. The second benefit to pushing the tempo has to do with the psychological side of preparation. When I first started MMA and was fighting professionally, I really struggled with gassing out, or at least I felt like I was gassing. I realized one day that my pace would stay pretty consistent across all of the rounds, and additionally I would be generally okay after the last round. So it wasn't that I was gassing. When I noticed my breathing was getting heavy, I interpreted this to be that I was gassing out, and I would slow down to a much more comfortable pace. Our body integrates signals from our muscles as well as our thought and experience to dictate our pacing. The central governor model of fatigue argues that work rate is a product or an attempt to balance what we think we need to do with what we think we're able to do. If the discomfort coming from the working muscles via the afferent nerves is too much, we're likely to slow down. Alternatively, you're probably going to pump the brakes if at the last time you were at that work rate, you had a negative experience. We cannot separate the impact that our thoughts and emotions have on the physiology. Whether you're perseverating on these thoughts or you're unintentionally slowing down like I was, staying task focused at these higher tempos should do wonders for your fitness. The second way you can modify your training is to wrestle. I get it. Pulling guard is way easier. However, pulling half guard every round is probably contributing to your shitty fitness. The aerobic and anaerobic demands of wrestling are so much higher than any other phase of grappling. This is partly due to the speed and intensity of movements seen in the stand-up phase. I'm not going to say to never pull guard, but maybe it's time to learn how to wrestle. Adding in wrestling can be quite challenging, so I would recommend gradually building up. I have seen the most injuries happen in the standing phase, and I think this is due to a couple of reasons. First, the quality of wrestling in BJJ is still quite poor. Many gyms still start their rounds on the knees, and the level of technical instruction is still pretty average. Second, people aren't physically accustomed to wrestling and haven't built the necessary coordination. Most high-level wrestlers have wrestled their entire life. And additionally, most wrestlers are amateur gymnasts. So when the everyday grappler watches Jordan Burroughs, they can't see what's quite missing from their game. In my opinion, these issues are pretty easy to overcome. First, if your gym starts all of their rounds on the knees, you need to run. Second, find your favorite training partner and begin to drill some wrestling technique. Try to get used to the movements and learn how to move less bad. Slowly build up the level of resistance until you're actually wrestling. Once you get more comfortable, increase the intensity only with training partners that you trust can be safe. Many of us have other jobs and we just simply don't have time to get injured. The third and final way that you can improve your conditioning without spending extra time on the assault bike is to add in strength training. Although this may seem counterintuitive, supplementing in strength training over conditioning will likely have a bigger bang for buck on your game. For the hobbyist, time is the most scarce resource we have, and we need to be careful on how we allocate our training time. Just to be clear, I'm not saying conditioning won't help. I'm just saying that strength training offers significantly more benefits, and if I have to choose one over the other, I know which one I'm choosing. Aside from the benefits like being stronger, faster, more explosive, and more jacked, Strength training may indirectly improve your conditioning as well. When we look at the research, strength training seems to reduce the amount of energy we use at a given work rate. This is typically measured in endurance athletes, and it's called economy. This is technically a measure of how much oxygen we use at a given external work rate. While we can't directly assess this in grappling, it's likely that strength training improves how economical we are. When we get stronger, we don't need to work as hard to generate the same output. The amount of energy that we use is related to the strength and rate of muscular contraction. The harder or faster we work, the more energy, or ATP, we use. As an example, say I had to race Usain Bolt. Now let's say he's being charitable and was only going to go 50% to match my pace. If I tried to match his pace, going at 100% of effort, not only would I embarrass myself, I'd be working far harder than he would be. This is probably another reason that strength training improves our fitness or our perception of our fitness. It likely raises our ceiling so that sub-maximal efforts cost us less. There we have it. 3 ways for the filthy casual grappler to improve their fitness without doing extra supplemental conditioning sessions. When our time is limited and we have several things on our plate, we shouldn't be looking for optimal solutions, but rather what we want to find is good enough ones. For most grapplers, adding in extra conditioning sessions are going to take away from things that they find value in, and more importantly, enjoy. If you'd like to learn more about how to integrate exercise physiology and sports science into your grappling, make sure you like and follow. And if you would like to find a strength and conditioning program that integrates both strength training and conditioning in a time-efficient manner, make sure you check the link below. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next time.